have been a fan of the Legend series for as long as I can remember. I think it was truly one of the first dystopian series that I fell in love with. Legend, the first book in the series, is one of my favorite books of all time. And Prodigy, if you've read it, you know that ending is just emotionally damaging in every way possible. Champion has been one of my top 3 most anticipated releases of the year, and I have looked forward to reading it so much. So when I got it in the mail, I was excited to read it, but I was a little apprehensive because there's the whole issue with recently trilogies have been ending very poorly and not wrapping everything up perfectly. But I feel that this book really wrapped up the trilogy perfectly. I was not disappointed at all, and I give the book 5 out of 5 stars. This book follows Day and June, who Day, in case you have not read the series, Day is the Republic's most wanted criminal, and June is the Republic's finest prodigy. And the two of them kind of find each other in the beginning of the series, and through a series of events, they're kind of thrust together, and they have to really kind of figure out what their relationship is to each other. And if you've read the series, you know that Prodigy ended very heartbreakingly, and Champion picks up 8 months after, which, and it was a big time jump, but I think it was okay. You really got to see how Day and June kind of learned to be without each other. And the main plot of this book is war with the colonies is very evident, and everyone kind of has to deal with this fact, and the only thing that could possibly stop it is something very close to Day's heart, and June has to figure out whether or not she can ask this of Day. And I feel like this book really delves in. Even though this book has a ton of action, its core really focuses on Day and June's relationship, which I appreciated so much. They are one of my all-time favorite fictional couples. I think they're one of my OTPs now, safe to say. And I just thought that this book, it didn't spell everything out for you, but it wasn't exactly an open ending either. It provides you with the closure that you need from this series, but you can still kind of think of in your head what's gonna. So now I'm gonna go on to spoilers. If you have not yet read this series, you need to. It is one of my favorites. This is definitely one of my favorite books of the year. So, spoiler time. Okay. So as I said in the beginning of the video when I picked up this book, I was so nervous. And well, as you guys know, I get very emotional in my books. This is a record though. I was crying by page 7. Yes, page 7. At the beginning, we find out that Day and June have been apart for 8 months. Day has been basically preparing to die, and he's been living with Eden, and June has been preparing to become the princess. And at the beginning of the book, you feel awful for Day. At the beginning of the series, he's portrayed as being this strong, amazing character, and now he's basically preparing to die. They tell him, you have 2 months left to live. Finish up your affairs. And then June doesn't really have anything left. I mean, she has the Elector, but I mean, she doesn't have Day. And then when they finally do come into contact, I was just sobbing. I mean, these two characters are just, and my favorite thing about this book, as I've said, the last book in a series can be very tricky, and I feel like a lot of times authors really kind of stray from their characters, which is very odd, but I felt like in this book, June and Day really held true to their characters. June was still completely loyal, and she just did what she thought was right, and Day was just, as using the metaphor that June uses, he's just the light in the world. Now, I thought that the action part of this book was very interesting. The colonies are invading. You don't know what's going to happen. I feel like, especially in that respect, you didn't know. Like, I thought for a while that maybe the colonies would take them over and it would end badly. Another interesting thing I thought about this book was when they go to Antarctica. Truthfully, Antarctica really creeped me out. They just, especially with the whole, like, point system, like, if you do something good, you get a point, and it, like, raises you up in society. I don't know, I just thought that was really creepy. It just creeped me out. And like June said, like, how do you know what's good and bad? And I just thought it was interesting to kind of explore that the fact that it wasn't just the Republic and the colonies in this world, there is other things. And I think it was really useful, too, that they put the map in the beginning of the book, because the map in this book and what we're used to today is so different. And I just thought that it was really great how Marie Lu kind of just laid everything out for you so you could see for yourself how life was really going to be. Through the series, Marie Lu really shows that this is not just an action series. You are emotionally attached to these characters, and you care what happens to them. Speaking of emotional scenes, that scene, I think it's legendary page 215, when Day and June finally get together, and June tells Day that she loves him. Oh my god. And that the fact that they both have paperclip rings is just adorable. Now I'm going to get to the more emotional part of this review. I apologize if I start crying or anything. I don't know. It's just throughout this whole book, I had this feeling of if this is sad, but I was really expecting something really, really awful to happen at the end. Something completely heartbreaking. And it kind of did. I'd say 100 pages left, I kind of started crying, and I didn't really stop crying. I felt like, as good as this book was, it just kept getting better as it went on, and it was just, this series is really character driven. Even the minor characters like Matthias and Thomas and Tess and Eden and these other characters that you don't think you care that much about, you really do. Especially the whole revelation with Matthias and Thomas. That is just so sad. I feel like Matthias is one of my favorite characters in the series, and he isn't even present for most of the series. So, in this giant battle scene, Commander Jameson and June and Day are all on the roof. She shoots Day, in which point I'm sobbing, and then June kind of kills her off. And she gets Matthias in her head basically saying, which is a quote from the first book, "Few people ever kill for the right reasons, June." And it was just, you find out that Day basically is in a coma for 6 months, and June never leaves his side. And that was just so June. You really know that these characters care so much for each other. I feel like during Prodigy, I kind of had my doubts whether or not they were going to, end up together, so to say, because Day was kind of had that thing with Tess, and June had that thing with Andon. But in the middle of this book, Marie Lu does a good job of, establishing. Day says to Tess, "I love you, just not in the way you want," and then June basically says the same thing to Andon. And at the end of this book, we find out that Day does not remember June. Truthfully, I was not that surprised when that happened. I was spoiled minorly on Tumblr, and I kind of thought that might be the way that they go with that. And I thought that June's decision at the end of that was just so heartbreaking, because throughout this series, their relationship has really been the strong point, but the one fault in their relationship is in the first book that June, before she really gets to know Day that well, has Thomas kill his mother. And you really notice that is the one roadblock in their relationship, that even though they can overcome everything else, that's the one thing they can't overcome. And June basically has to decide what she's going to do now that Day doesn't remember her. And he sees her and his eyes light up, and she just says, "I'm just one of your commanding officers and I have to go." And she describes Day, and she says that she loves him. And at this point, I'm sobbing, because June is just one of my favorite protagonists, and she really just does what she thinks is best for him. She takes her feelings completely out of it and gives Day the life that she thinks he deserves. And I just think that was so selfless of her, and we don't really see a lot of characters truly doing that nowadays. So a lot of people, when they were describing this book, they said that it was amazing, 5 stars, and the epilogue left them shattered, which is completely true, because it's 10 years later, and June's kind of describing what her life has been like, because the thing with this series is that Day and June, I feel like you forget really easily that throughout this series, they're 15 years old. They have both been through so much crap. Day with his mother and John in the Republic's trials, and June has lost her entire family and her brother. And I feel like this ending, June kind of reflects, and she's like, the last few years haven't been as good. She's in a relationship with Andon where I was like, but they didn't end up together. And the last page of the book really pays tribute. I kind of anticipated this too, but I thought it was really well done. And they walk up to each other on the streets, and Day says, "Are you?" And June goes, "Yeah." And then it's kind of a flashback to the first book where Day says, "If only I didn't know you and I could go up to you on the street one day, I'd think you're cute and I'd say, 'Hi, my name is Day.'" And that's kind of what the ending is like. Day says, "Hi, I'm Daniel." And June says, "I'm June." And that's how it ends. And I was just sobbing. I just feel like it was such a great ending because it didn't spell it out for you. But I mean, you're going to assume that they end up together eventually. Okay, so that's basically my general discussion and thoughts on this book and the series. I just love this series so much, and I'm so sad to see it go. This has truly been one of my favorite series. Day and June, one of my favorite fictional couples, and they will remain to be. I just think that this series was truly fabulous. I'm not ready to let it go, but I have to. And as I said before, I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. Phenomenal. One of my favorite books of the year, if not my favorite. We have to decide on that. But if you've read this book, let me know what you think in the comments down below. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you again soon.